Just to give you a little background, my name is Scott Rubeck, and I am the community kitchen manager for Food Gatherers. Um, I have been working with Food Gatherers now.
Oh, good Lord. How do you get muted?
I don't know. His video is not showing up either. I've asked him to unmute
All right.
via a message here. We'll see. Ask to start video. I've asked him to start video.
Okay.
Hopefully he'll get some prompts to do that.
Okay, just tell me if you want me to text him at any point.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring it up so I can do it quickly when it, just in case, or call. Boy, this has been just about as challenging as that first one we tried to do, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm watching his name on the screen. On my screen, it shows what it shows him muted and his video off.
Oh,
And I've got a little button I can push to ask him to unmute, which I've done, and ask him to start video, which I've done a couple of times.
okay.
So we'll see. Oh, shoot. We got, there we
Oh,
go.
no.
I'm
He's on twice.
We're
Am
getting
I
there,
on
Scott.
twice again?
Yes, you are. The audio sounds okay. Do you want to say a few words, and if you need to?
Hello?
cut
Hello?
one off?
Hello?
That sounds good.
All right, because somehow I got booted off and couldn't see or hear you. So did you hear anything that I said?
No.
Just your name, basically.
All right. Well, that's the whole story. So I started volunteering at Food Gatherers in 2007 and joined the staff a year later. So I have almost a 14-year presence now in the kitchen. The community kitchen, in the 17 years that we have been here, we are closing in on 1.5 million plates served out of this dining room. And the Delana Center is a county building, which we share with the Shelter Association. So upstairs, there are 3 floors of services and beds for folks who are homeless. And so it's a cooperative building where a number of services are available. Food Gatherers has been around for about 30 years. We are the food bank for Washtenaw County. We distribute food county-wide, and we partner with 160 plus agencies. And those agencies traditionally would have come to the warehouse to shop, gotten food delivered, or a combination of both. And we move traditionally 6 million pounds of food a year through the community. And in recent years, we went away from a traditional model where you would expect to find canned goods and dry goods. We expanded our warehouse, and 4 million of that 6 million pounds of food was proteins, dairy, and produce. So we really upped the game in terms of nutrition and high quality ingredients. And at the same time, of that 6 million pounds, 2/3 of it, 4 million pounds, are rescued food items, meaning we're keeping 4 million pounds a year out of landfills, in addition to being able to feed folks here throughout the county. At the kitchen, we serve lunch Monday through Friday. We serve dinner every day of the year except Thanksgiving, when the good folks over at Cottage Inn, along with the Greek Church, sponsor a meal. I know this year they were doing carry out only, but they were prepared to feed 300 folks on Thanksgiving Day. So it's the one day where so many other organizations are stepping up. It's the only day that we don't have to be here. We have a great system here and a great routine, and along with changing the profile of what we are serving to folks who are food insecure, I had been working with a dietitian on a new theory of thought called culinary medicine, where we were reducing canned product as much as possible, making things like dressing and sauces from scratch, bringing in healing herbs, learning techniques. I can't remember the scientific name, but there is a property in broccoli and other vegetables like it that reduces inflammation and is also helpful to diabetics. And what I learned is the finer you chop the broccoli, the more of that chemical and those vitamins are released. So sometimes increasing nutritional value is how you chop food or how you move food along through the system. And so we were really on that track, and we were taking, community kitchen cuisine to a much higher level with this latest, greatest medical thinking. And then COVID hit. And food banks have similar to the same business models. It was a very specific way of doing things. Well, we look for donated food, and folks could not leave their house. We look for food purveyors, restaurants, grocery stores, food distribution centers to donate food. And we have a truck system. We're out on the road, 6 days a week with multiple trucks, bringing in truckloads of food. And suddenly grocery store shelves are empty. And staff throughout the food industry is stressed beyond belief. So not only is there no product to rescue, these folks don't have the time or the resources to put things aside for us. And then, because we are the only food bank in Washtenaw County, we have to keep our environment clean, because if the warehouse has to shut down for 3 days or the kitchen has to shut down, that's a significant hardship on the community that are depending on us so that we can make sure folks get fed. And the way that turned out to be was we eliminated all volunteers at the warehouse. And I am working with a crew of volunteers at the kitchen. We are working with 25% of the normal volunteers here. You could walk in and find 10 to 15 people working in here every shift per se. And we had 3 and 4 shifts a day here at the kitchen. We now have, on a service shift where we're serving food, only 3 volunteers instead of 10 or 12. And in terms of prepping food, we've kept it to no more than 5. So we're doing triple and quadruple the workload here at the kitchen with a much reduced staff. And to also keep people safe, we have had to go from, dishes, silverware, please come through the line. You get to choose what you want, to we package meals in the kitchen with the door closed. They are delivered out to the guests in the dining room. And also, we've started carryout service. Many of our meal guests said we don't even want to come in. And so now we're not only feeding folks in the dining room, we're feeding them out the front door so they can go somewhere else. But now that winter has hit, we have to provide housing for so many people that would be on the street. And in our shelter, we would have 75 residents in the winter and as many as 60 or 70 sleeping on floors, on mats. And I think we now have about 3 dozen residents and maybe 15 people sleeping here. So there are churches around the community, sometimes more than one at a time, but mostly taking turns. There are a number of people living at the Wyndham Hotel that's out on Jackson Road, and there are warming shelters throughout the community as well. So what we have taken over, because these are folks that would normally be coming here, is we are now actually producing meals to go. And sending them delivered out the door through the kitchen. So in pre-COVID times, if we did 120 at lunch and 150 a day, that would have been a remarkable busy day here at the kitchen. And most days we are sending out close to 200 to 220 meals a day packaged to be delivered. And then we are still dealing with the 40 or 50 folks that are coming here as well. So we're feeding significantly about 20 to 25% more people than we ever have before. However, what I can tell you is that the quality of what we are serving, other than that we are not making things like special ingredients from scratch, we have been able to maintain the high quality, the produce forward, protein packed meals. And, I've talked to our agencies and I've talked to where these folks are getting the meals delivered, and they feel that the meals are as high quality as what they've come to expect. So I have to give real kudos to the 8 or 9 volunteers who are here every day, the 10 who are making this happen. It's just incredible. And I have prepared a very short video of a meal that was handed out pre-COVID so that you can actually see the types of food we serve, the quality of food we serve. I was the videographer, so when you see the camera going like this, I was focused on the food, but I'm not necessarily a video guy. But you'll see that it's, a very beautiful dinner, and we work very hard on presentation and variety. And if you want to show the video, Clark, that'll give you some idea of what we're capable of and what we try to achieve every day.
Okay, I'll get that started. Or so I think. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Well, it's of course a COVID thing. I'll get it started here, but all the controls are covered up by the Zoom controls. Just a second. It's up. Get started.
Clark, you could start it and then.
Yeah, that's what I have to do.
Oh, there we go.
All right, so you can see the variety of salads that are available to folks. And at the beginning, I think you saw, well, we have squash, Brussels sprouts, au gratin potatoes, roasted carrots, barbecue chicken. And it started with a very tall cart of a variety of fresh fruit. And, in the beginning, when I first started here, that cart was filled with pastry. So they chose dessert first because it took the longest, and then we could be efficient going down the line. And I came to realize that if we want people to eat more healthy, people who want the desserts are always going to take the desserts no matter where they are. But with folks who don't eat every day or who eat once a day, their first thought as they come to the line is, I want this and I want that. And so by putting the healthier stuff first, there's room on the plate to make sure they get those things first. And they seem to take more of the healthier things just by the way we line things up. And I walk the dining room at the end of every meal or during the meal. It's always, how are you? What do you think of dinner? Any thoughts or suggestions? And to my surprise, nobody had any concerns or complaints. Nobody was like, where's the sour cream? Where's the extra butter? Because we were going with healthier oils and things like that. And then I tried to introduce Vegetarian Day, which I thought I was going to get a lot of pushback, because 4 or 5 years ago, we had cheese pizza donated, and I had 3 or 4 of our meal guests get very upset that meat was not on the pizza. And so, but I didn't announce Vegetarian Day. We had breakfast for dinner. And so we had a beautiful thing because we had vegetarian sausage donated, or I just, went with a veggie chili, and it was completely accepted. And so many of the meal guests are so willing to go along on this journey. One, we make them so welcome. We know them all by name. Many eat here for years. They know that we are both, determined to give them the highest quality food, but that we are also so open and always seeking feedback that I think that they have come to trust what we do. Whereas years ago, it was a little harder for me to make those connections because I was not as familiar with them, or, the relationships over the years have just deepened. And so it's a really incredible thing. But here is where it gets very interesting and exciting. In the morning, the warehouse calls and says, what is on your wish list today? And I might have 5 things, I might have 50 things, I might have empty shelves, or I'm looking for something special. I don't know what I'm going to get till the truck shows up at 1 o'clock. So if you call me at 12:50 and say, what's for dinner tonight at 5:30, who knows? And then it
Wow.
comes in and, I might have, 90 pounds of this, but only 3 pounds of that. And, I have to juggle it all. But I also then have to go to the volunteer list to see how many people are going to be here, because I can't have an idea until I see who's coming. And then I have to assess their skill levels. I might look at the schedule on it, like last Tuesday, every shift was filled with people who had been coming for 10 or 12 years. I didn't even have to give them direction. But other times I'll look at the list, I won't recognize any names. And that usually means a good number of them have been here very few, or it's their first time. And so then I can't even figure out what we're going to do until I get them started on projects to see how quickly, how well suited folks are. A lot of people come here because they love to cook. I cannot tell you the number of students that come in here and say, I've never cooked, or I've never swept, or I've never mopped. And so, it's a volunteer opportunity. Every volunteer is a donor, and there is a role for everyone to play in the fight against hunger. And so then I have to match skill sets up with product in a 2-hour quick cooking execution, because it's got to be done in the kitchen, cleaned up in 2 hours. So it is a constant recalibration. I probably have 15 sets of ideas in my head before they get there, and I probably have to shift gears 4 or 6 times throughout the 2-hour session to be able to get it done. And then the volunteers are all very good at, swinging with it and making things happen. It's always, in my mind, a little chaotic, but this kitchen, we keep it calm, we keep it smooth. And then even once we get going, what happens if we're running slower than I expected, I need to adjust or make a cut, or more often than not, the volunteer shifts are overachieving. So then it's like, okay, how much more can we add? What can we do for this to make it more delicious? Can we cut more veggies? Can we add an extra side dish? What are we thinking? And so a lot of times my 5:30 dinners, it's about 5:05 when I can actually say, now I can tell you everything we're having. So it is a round robin of constant communication with volunteers, a lot of input from them on how to get things done. I find that when you give someone a very specific direction, they get it done. When you bring input into it, there is often that feeling of love going into the food when folks get to participate in not just chopping or cooking, but their ideas, their bringing in their favorite techniques, or we get a lot of students from around the world, and then we are like, okay, can we use some of your cultural influences to change some of the flavor profiles, to increase the variety of what we do with potatoes or broccoli or sauces. And so in recent years, not only is it healthier, but we've gone to a broad-based international cuisine. So the variety of tastes and flavors and ingredients is just pretty incredible. With COVID, we have had to be very efficient in packaging. So now it takes almost more time to package than it takes to prepare. And so we've had to recalibrate the amount of time we cook, what will hold up safely in a carryout container. You don't want a soupy stew bleeding over lettuce or anything. So we've really had to refigure out how to keep it fresh, how to keep it hot or cold, how to keep it looking beautiful, and making sure that the nutritious and delicious qualities are there. Because the one thing that has been taken out of the ingredient list in this kitchen is interacting with our meal guests. They don't get to come up and choose. And to keep the kitchen and the few volunteers safe, we don't go out into the dining room except for me. And so we've lost a little bit of that human touch. So now I have a wonderful volunteer who is, he's just so open to anything. And I came to him about 6 weeks ago. I said, instead of you being out there cooking for me, you have such beautiful penmanship. Could you donate your time by sitting at my desk and writing notes and letters? So once or twice a week, we are now sending little letters, little thank yous, occasionally a little gift. You know, I got beautiful biscotti from an Italian bakery a couple weeks ago. So we had beautiful cellophane wrappers from another project. I wrapped them. I went out, I bought some ribbon and I tied them. And, you know, that was a little, you know, with their note, they got a little beautiful something to take away. And so we're really trying to remind all the people we serve how much we do care about them and how much interacting with them every day is part of the joy of being here. And then everybody understands. I've never had anybody in COVID come up and say, why can't we come through the line, or why can't we come to the kitchen door? And so I think, you know, our meal guests are very much involved in keeping themselves safe and healthy. And so that's gone a long way to make things kind of work. I think we are facing significant challenges because as the donation chain is down, the need for food is sky high. We are looking at the potential of over a 100% increase in the number of children who are food insecure. And we have gone from feeding 1 in 7, and I've heard numbers closing in on 1 in 4 right now. So our workforce is greatly reduced. Our ability to rescue food is greatly reduced. And we have never seen this kind of demand before. So I have to tell you that without volunteers, it falls on the staff to do everything. 80% of what we get done is done through our volunteer force. So my colleagues at the warehouse are doing it all with the help of the National Guard. And what they have been able to accomplish and provide all of the agencies in this kitchen with has been absolutely incredible. And we are doing this in large because we're able, through the generosity of our community, to begin to purchase the food we need to make sure things happen. And the USDA and all those agencies, FEMA, we're getting a lot of food that we get for free. So it's helping quite a bit. But we are basically, in a matter of weeks, had to reinvent our business model, our policy model. It was just a whole new ballgame. And it took a lot of meetings and a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails to get it going. So even in the first 2 or 3 months in the kitchen, where I had all these responsibilities out there to take care of and how much more demanding that was, it took hours and hours a day on the phone and with the health department and trying to strategize. So that first 2 months, I think I was around about 18 hours a day for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we could get things into place. One of the wonderful things that I can tell you is that those people in Washtenaw County that we serve are doing their best to help out, you know, taking just what they need, or I've had a number of meal guests come, you know, in and say, can I donate $5? So people that we serve are stepping up. But this is the most generous community I've ever lived in. And whether we're doing a fundraiser or, you know, the post office picks up canned goods from your door in May, I have never, ever seen such an outpouring of support for those who struggle to get by in life as I have here in Washtenaw County. And the amount of support we get from our donors at Food Gathers is, you know, just a complete, total commitment. And not only has the staff had to step up in a huge, huge way, my colleagues, especially my warehouse team and our leadership team, have brilliantly given us the ideas, the thoughts, the tools, the backup, so that every one of us has really been able to rise to the occasion when we've needed to rise higher than ever before. And so that's just a source of pride for me. Are there any questions at this point that anybody would like to ask? Yes, Christy.
Can you speak just a little bit of how you get the food out to, like, say, Whitmore Lake and Ipsy and places like that? Are there centers that you send it to, or?
Well, like I had said earlier, we work with agencies rather than individuals. And
Right.
so churches, community centers, low-income housing, community centers within the housing projects, food pantries, we distribute to them and then they distribute to individuals. Like in the past, they had the option of delivery, shopping, or a combination of both. Right now, it is strictly delivery. We have a fleet of vehicles, and it was 7 or 8. I don't know if we've leased more because of all this increased activity, but our drivers are out on the road doing 2 truck runs a day minimally. They go out in the morning, they drop food off with a loaded truck, but along the way, as the truck empties, they pick food up and bring it back. And so, anywhere from 14 to 18 trucks are big trucks are out there delivering and moving food. So that's a pretty incredible complex system. And one of those trucks shows up for me. I'm not exactly an agency because I am with Food Gatherers, but because I am in that system of ordering and delivering, I'm kind of treated like an agency. So that's how the food is moved around. And currently, the shopping at the warehouse has stopped. So it is strictly, order and we will send it your way. And that's how that gets accomplished. And we have 160 plus agencies that we work with. And so that's how that happens. And that's how 6 million plus pounds of food gets delivered to folks who need it.
Thank you.
Sir.
I have a couple questions. One, first of all, I'm very impressed with what you're doing, and you need to be congratulated. It's really, really tremendous job. My first question, I may have missed it, but I thought I heard you say that a lot of the stores, grocery stores and so forth, can't supply the food like they used to. So I'm not sure where you're getting the food these days to make up for that loss. And the next question I have is takeout. And I'm just wondering where those folks, especially the homeless, can go to eat and how, and I know for our experience, when we get takeout, it's often not real warm and good. Once I get it home, we don't do as much takeout as we thought we might. And so what do people do and how do they handle that? Thank you.
You're welcome. Because of the system that we have with the churches stepping up and the shelters that are available for warming and the hotels where we are housing people, the majority of people are getting their food indoors. And for those that take carryouts here, it is a choice. There is indoor space available for folks everywhere. The ones that are taking food away are the ones that do not want to come in. And most of them who do take the carryout do so because they have apartments, they are on a bus to go home. Not everyone we serve is homeless. In fact, people all think that we are working with folks that don't work. I cannot tell you the percentage of people we serve every day who are the working poor, that are working $10 jobs, $10 an hour jobs, or who have to work 2 or 3 part-time jobs to try to feed their family. And so many people we do serve are homeless but are housed, and many people are being housed throughout the county to keep them off the streets and also to keep them, safe and distant from one another. So the carryout option that people take away at the front door here is a choice. Nobody is forced to take a meal and go. And we found very early on, our dining room is busier now than it was at the beginning of the pandemic. In the beginning of the pandemic, hardly anybody wanted to come in. And now that they're more used to the masks and it's become a routine, our numbers in the dining room are rising again, even though we're distributing food everywhere. And I think some of those carryout folks in the beginning are now feeling that they can come in and sit down for 20 minutes. But our dining room seats 120 people, and we are limited to 24 meal guests at a time. Only 2 people can sit at a 10-foot long table, and they have to be spaced out. So Nobody is forced to take a meal into the cold. And then, I have 6 or 7 folks who are eating with me now that wouldn't have even come here for a meal. They preferred to stand on the street and ask for money because they didn't trust. They don't trust systems. They feel they've been maligned when trying to seek services, or they just really don't want to be participating in services. And so those folks that would never have come over here, I do see them at the front door. So they've actually moved forward by coming to eat outside, even though it's cold. That's an advancement for them in terms of trusting and seeking and reaching out for help. So that's how that works. And I'm sorry, now that I've gotten into that, I've forgotten your first question.
Well, how do you make up for the loss of food from the grocery stores?
We are purchasing food. Our development department is very hard at work raising funds, and we are able, and again, we're a food bank, so we have access to food that is considerably less expensive than grocery stores. We always say that at Food Gatherers, we can feed someone 3 nutritious meals a day and a good healthy snack for $1. So our purchasing power, you go to the grocery store and buy a can of soup for $1.39, and that's one can that gets donated. For $1.39, I can feed someone all day and give them breakfast tomorrow. So we have purchasing power. There are low purchase products that are specifically designed to help folks in situations like this. So it is available to us, and this is where the generosity of our community comes in. No one, all of our donors, they quickly stepped up. A lot of people reached out. I cannot tell you how many of my kitchen volunteers said, where can I mail a check, or what do you need most, and how can we help? And I know that, I work with folks all over town who are in the same situation in other not-for-profits. And I'm telling you, the community here is remarkable. They take care of each other. They take care of our neighbors in need. In my neighborhood and other folks' neighborhood, there are 3 people on my block who, every time they drive by or see me on the street, roll their windows down or open their front door to tell me about the beautiful box they received this week or this day and how much, it's helping. And that's just on my block. So I can see the impact. If you think about that and how many people throughout the community, we have been able, and we are not asking people to eat less or choose less per se. We're just, getting things out, making sure folks get fed. And that's how that is happening at this point. And we've been able to keep that going sustainably since COVID started. And we are still in very good standing to be able to continue on. Yes, sir.
Scott, I really appreciate you doing your presentation. You're a very articulate person, and you're a great deal of positive energy for the organization. I'm curious, if you don't mind being personal, is how did you get into this?
Well, I didn't even realize I had gotten into it. So we have to go all the way back to 1971. 2nd grade, my teacher, Mrs. Ruby, explained what a canned good drive was and said, who in this class wants to take responsibility for the box? And that was me. And by 3rd grade, I was running the food drive, right through 6th grade. I got to junior high school. They said, hey. I got to high school. They said, hey. And then I became an art historian, which meant that I was going to work in the food industry for the rest of my life. And so I ran a number of restaurants. The first time I was a manager of a restaurant, it was on Woodward Avenue in Detroit, across from the hospitals. It was called Union Street. And it's maybe a mile south of the public library and the Detroit Institute of Arts. And it was a very nice restaurant in a very rough neighborhood. And I kept seeing all this food going into the garbage, and we would go out and we could see 20 people standing in the corner. And they were standing there hoping to get $1 to go in and get a Slim Jim. And so I'm like, why can't we take that food another 30 feet and say to folks at the end of the night, if you're here as we close, we'll have everything packaged up. And that followed me through every restaurant job in every city that I ever went to.
Hmm.
And in 2005, I was living in Arizona, and we had been there 2 years, and it was a mistake. I should never have moved there. And the other option was to move back here where I love. Um, so when we moved back, I was diagnosed with cancer shortly before we moved here. So then I had to take time off of work. And I do not like to sit around. I love to be industrious at home. Even, I go home and I have all these things that I like to do at home. So I'm very, used to and prefer to be on my feet, or, studying or learning or taking on projects. And I could not stand sitting around. And the doctor said, you will not be able to work because you're going to be up and down with your treatment. At which point someone said, well, there's this place in town called Food Gathers, and they have a kitchen. We know how much you love to cook. Why don't you look into volunteering there once a week? Well, once a week turned out after a couple of months to be 6 times a week. And after about 3 or 4 months of volunteering, the light bulb went off that not only was this what I was supposed to be doing with my life, but that in some way, in the very background of my life, I had been doing it all along. So it's one of those things that was in front of me my whole life, and I didn't see it for the longest time. And at that point, this kitchen had only ever had one full-time employee, and that employee was here from day one to open the kitchen. So when I realized that I wanted to be here, I knew I had to start volunteering at the warehouse because that's where the majority of the staff works. I never realized that I was seeking the only job that was ever available was someone who already had it, who didn't move on until 3 years ago. But they had a special project. They asked me if I wanted to come on and just handle the project 20 hours a week. And within a few months, it just kept growing and growing. And I now have taken over the responsibilities of 1, 2, 3 other people. So I'm now managing 3 full-time positions myself, not always running at the same time, but it adds up to I've now pretty much taken over everything that gets done in this kitchen, including the job training program where we bring kids in. It's in the summer for a life skills, culinary arts skills boot camp to get them ready for the work world. So I've been very fortunate and very lucky that, I have the ability to multitask and run a number of things at the same time. So every time somebody moves in a different direction, I'm always, let me take that project on. And so that actually keeps me very engaged. And I'm going to be 59 this year. My minimum goal to be in this kitchen is 70. And sometimes I have this notion that I could even push it to maybe 73 or 74. The idea of retirement is completely unappealing to me. And I can't imagine that I could be this happy or this satisfied anywhere else. And, I'm very much a supporter of Food Gatherers. And I say this having run companies. I was never able to, nor have I ever worked in an environment where the culture, the trust, the expectations, and the colleagues who deliver has ever been nearly this high. I think if you come into Food Gatherers and you give 99%, you're not cutting it. My colleagues give 400, 500%. There's never a no. There's no, we can't get it to you. If you have an issue, even on a Sunday, if people are home, boom, people just jump in. A couple years ago, we were having a snowstorm and there was a semi truck parked in front of the building. And I thought, oh, this poor guy can't get up the hill. Well, he came in about 45 minutes later. He was on his phone. It turns out he got a job to go to Philadelphia, pick something up and take it to Los Angeles. And he would make far more money than the semi truck full of frozen chicken that he had. And so he wanted me to take it so that he could go make more money. He could write it off or whatever. And I'm like, your truck is as big as my kitchen and 10 times the size of my refrigerator. So I called the guy who manages the warehouse on a Sunday. And I said, this is the story. He says, give me 5 minutes. And he calls me back and he says, there'll be 6 people at the warehouse within 20 minutes. And they went in and they unloaded a semi truck of chicken. Boom. And that's the way we all operate. You know, we do things for each other. We are not employees. We are mission-based service people. Very few people have ever come to me and said, you know, are you hiring? I need a job. These are people who are passionate, who are social justice minded. And I think I did the math about a month ago. I think close to a third of our current staff all started as volunteers. And I have 2 assistants who help me in the kitchen part-time, and they were elevated from volunteers. So everybody in the kitchen, all 3 of us, are former volunteers. And Graham, who's out there getting things set up for me so I can jump in when the volunteers get here in a few minutes, he started as a volunteer. We have 3 other volunteer coordinators. Another one of them started as a volunteer. So a number of our warehouse folks. So it's just a system that whether you're an employee, whether you're a donor, whether you're a volunteer, we've created a community where I think between our value proposition and people's generous hearts, and then the creativity, this is really a place that people love to come to. I cannot tell you how many young people who are doing court-ordered service come in here on their first day and they're nervous, or they're angry that they have to be here, or they're just not, you know, in a place where, because of why they're coming in, it's like, am I going to be welcomed here or what? Most of them become regular volunteers after their service is done. And most people figure out within an hour what a fun place this is. And there's camaraderie amongst the volunteers, new and old. And
Yeah, amazing.
I always talk about what Food Gatherers does because that's what people want to know about. It is the community. This is such a community organization, and that is the difference, because the community is truly embracing, truly generous, and we have a history of 30 plus years now. So people know what we do. They know the level of service we give. They know the commitment and the responsibility that we've taken on, and how we daily try to earn the trust of everyone that we interact with. And I think Food Gatherers does a really good job at that. And they're very good at, you know, making sure that every one of us have those tools. You know, I'm a very social guy. I love to talk to people. I'm out there. I have colleagues that are much quieter, that, you know, have different expectations of how comfortable they are to put themselves out, and their skills shine elsewhere. And so that's another thing. We put talent where the talent is, you know, not just needed, but where the skill sets of each person, you know, really thrive and grow. And I think that goes a long way to creating the big picture, creating the circumstances in which we do the great work we do, and also just honor the just incredible support and the hearts of this community. It's unbelievable to me. And when I grew up and when I went to college here, I didn't look for it. I didn't know it. I didn't see it. Now that I've come back in my 40s, and now that I'm closing in on 60, you know, I just look at the places I've lived elsewhere, and, you know, this is it. This is the great city of my heart and life. And I will tell you a cute story. Can I go back?
Scott, we just want to be respectful of your time, because you're probably got 1,000 things to do when you get out of here. But sure.
I was told I have till 12:15, and that's what folks are expecting. Still, if you're like, we've had enough, I can cut out.
No.
So this is not a story.
They can leave. It's not like I think we have some more questions. So go ahead.
This is not a story that I even remember. But I joined Facebook a number of years ago, and suddenly college friends and coworkers that I had not seen since the 80s, you know, we connected. And this one woman who was a waitress at Maud's restaurant, which is owned by the folks that own Seafood and Grazie, and was located where Ruth Chris Steakhouse is now. And so we started talking. I said, I'm so surprised you remembered me because you just started as I was leaving. And this is, 30 years later. And she goes, well, and I have to preface this. The waiter never got a paycheck because you made so much in tips that you ended up paying taxes. So every paycheck was a zero and you walked away with your tips. And this woman said, and the last month that I was there, you were going to graduate school. And you kept saying that on the last day, you were going to order 12 rib dinners to go, put them on a tray, walk out the front door and give them to the homeless guys at the bus station and never look back. And she goes, and when you did that, we all cheered in our hearts. And I'm like, that is such a Scott story. But I didn't actually remember that I had done that. So I said to her, well, guess what? I've moved back to Ann Arbor and now I take care of those folks every day. So that's another moment in my life where I remember that. So
Amazing.
So
Gail,
yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm curious. Again, just thank you for all you do and the creativity and just the love that's going into it. It really shows. My question is about volunteering, because there are a lot of, volunteers that haven't been able to help out. Have you thought about at what point you're going to include volunteers again if they've been vaccinated, or just kind of looking to the future?
Well, we're always looking to the future, but the future does not indicate at this time that a shift is coming. And so it will be, I'm sure, incremental. I don't think we're going to wake up one day and go, we're back to the way things were, and we will go very slowly. I think I could probably squeeze in one or two more people on each shift to keep them socially distanced. But I don't want to take the risk of that many people being around. And I take guidance from my superiors who are far more focused in conversation with the health department. At this point, I'm out doing direct service work. I don't have a lot of time anymore to be on phone calls, and there are people who are monitoring that. So I think the direction, first of all, will come from the health department. I think knowing our volunteers, the ones that have had to step back, and I can't speak for the warehouse volunteers, many of our folks are a little older and they've preferred to play it safe. They are probably going to want to see a gradual, I don't think they're going to be like, yes, you can come back and the kitchen will be full. We're going to have to earn trust again. Not necessarily with food gatherers, but that we can be out, that we can be safe, that we will err cautiously. And I know in my kitchen, in my heart, I always want to be one step behind how many advances we can make as we return to normal. I would prefer to be more cautious. And the volunteers that I'm continually in touch with all of our regulars. I call everybody once a month just to check in. They're all wanting to come back. And they're all trusting us to do it safely. And so I think it's going to be very, very slow. And at this point, Dr. Fauci's talking about it, seeing a difference in the fall and changes, within 7 or 8 months. But that's a long way to go. And the vaccinations are just rolling out now. So I can't wait to return to normal, but that is not our goal. Our goal is safety. And, even, as a food bank, everybody thinks our goal is to feed people. It starts and ends with safety. That is our job. And especially here at the kitchen, I look out that window and see 100 folks eating on a normal day, or I know where this food is going. They are in recovery. They have lived on the streets for years. Their immune system is down. They have very little or no access to medical care. So the food safety standards that everyone follows in the county by the health department, whether you're in a restaurant, a cafeteria, whatever, our standards and our expectations are much, much higher. And I'll give you an example. In a restaurant, you can use your bare hands if you're working on raw food, but you can't use your bare hands if it's ready to eat. So if you go to a pizzeria and you order a pizza, you'll see they're making it with their bare hands. But once it comes out of the oven, you have to have gloves on. In this kitchen, everybody wears gloves for everything, from the moment they come in to the moment they leave. In terms of cooking to temperature, if this must be 155 degrees to be safe, we tend to go to 162 or 163. So we're always, going 5, 10, 20, 30% beyond the highest standards of what the guidelines show, because we do realize we are serving a very vulnerable population. And then, with 1 in 5 children normally in the county, and now it's doubled in terms of how many children need to be fed, those are also young folks that don't necessarily have fully developed immune systems. So we're really, really looking at that. So that's really a crucial part of what we do as well. Yes.
So I'm wondering, how do you identify, or how do people, one, where is your kitchen dining room? And two, how do you, do people just walk in there, or are they referred to you, or how does it work?
Well, they are referred to us, but we don't take referrals, so to speak. All the agencies in town know about us. We know about all of them. So there is a great network of folks who direct people here. This is a community kitchen, so it is for the community, and we prepare a family meal for anyone in need. Nobody meets a requirement here. Nobody fills out a form here. I can come, you can come. Well, I can't come. If I'm food insecure, there are ways that Food Gatherers staff can get food. But if you walk in the door saying, I need a meal, you get a meal. You don't even have to say you need a meal. If you're in, you're in. And we serve anyone and everyone who feels that they need the service. No questions asked. We are located about 2 blocks west of the Relax Station. There's a 4-story county building called the Delaunay Center.
Yeah.
And we share that with the Shelter Association. So there are 3 floors upstairs that provide shelter and services to homeless folks, including getting them placed in housing, while we run the food program, and we just share the building. So
I see. Do the people at Delaunay then eat?
Oh, absolutely.
I see. Interesting. That makes sense. Well,
Yes, sir.
it's incredible.
Thank you.
Unmute, Clark.
Sorry. I have a kind of a practical question. You said you used to have 10 or 12 people in the preparation. Now you have roughly 3. What lessons have you learned in order to accomplish that? And are those going to carry over to the post-COVID days? How do you do that?
Oh my God. All right, you got a stumper here.
Okay.
The way we've made it work is, we've had to reboot the system. So if you came for dinner in traditional times, we would start cooking at 3 o'clock, and it would be ready at 5, and we would serve it at 5:30. Now we cook by components because we're packaging so many meals. And we start packaging first thing in the morning. So we can't cook in the morning and package. So a lot of stuff gets prepared a day ahead of time, or I might have a shift where it's like, like today I'm going to have a crew, but I also know a restaurant is donating dinner. So today we are going to roast off 3 days worth of meat. And in my second shift, we're going to do a lot of chopping of vegetables. So I'm no longer preparing day by day, but components, so that I will be able to look out and say, I know there's a guarantee of 200 meals on Tuesday and 215 on Wednesday, plus folks that stop by. And so it's just a different organization, a different calendar of when things get delivered, cooked, chopped. And, we might have to bake off 500 chicken breasts instead of 200 and make sure they're very lightly seasoned, because it might be a chicken bacon sandwich one day, or it might be chicken over rice and a light curry sauce, or so then it gets, because you can't have chicken sandwiches 3 days in a row. You got to give variety. You got to make it delicious. So sometimes it's just we're putting the same amount of food out, but when we thaw it, when we prep it, when we cook it, how we assemble it, is just in a different order.
Okay, you've rethought a lot of the process. That
Yes.
answers it. It's not you turn the machines on high, you turn the machines on 11. It's rethinking it. Okay.
So to answer the second half of your question, I'm sure after the craziness dies down in the kitchen today and I'm home at 5:30, I will probably have the thought of what are we going to keep and what is it going to look like going forward? You've just opened my mind to, I haven't even gotten that far down the road. And so now I'm like, what are the things, what are the strengths that I want to keep? And, what are the really important things that, I thought brought value before COVID? Because, my first thought would have been like, oh no, we want to return to normal because we loved it and our meal guests loved it and we were proud of what we did. But you're right. There are probably a lot of innovative things that have gone on here that we just haven't had the chance to step back and really think about. We've been flying by the seat of our pants. It doesn't look like it here. Nobody would know it. Well, I am. I try not to, on my 2 part-time employees, I just try to give them the tools to make sure that it's a good experience out there for them and the volunteers. But you're right. I have not, there are probably a lot of things that I can mine from this experience going forward that I just have not even had the chance to put on my radar. Because I really don't think about the future. I really, right now, knowing that we have at least months to go, my focus is on keeping things going, keeping things
People really got interested in it.
Yeah.
So I may get to that, especially if things start to change, when things start to morph, absolutely. And I think the first thing I do want to bring back is bringing people through the service line. They get to come, so many of our volunteers are long-term regulars, so they miss seeing volunteers, but they miss seeing the clients. But I cannot tell you how many of the meal guests and clients who live in the shelter come and say, have you heard from so-and-so? Or if you see this church, you tell them how much we miss them. Or is Betty okay? Because we don't know if she's still volunteering. Because Betty was very, very old. She was probably in her 90s, and she just had a way with people. And so a good deal of what we, in my mind, I cannot wait not just to return to normal, but to resume the great growth and expansion of quality and nutrition that we were working on. I certainly. We had always said that the health department had asked us not to take food out of the dining room because you don't ever know. Someone might be taking, a tuna fish sandwich home and putting it in the fridge, and someone might be going out in 90-degree heat that's going to put it in their backpack for 6 hours. There was always a risk and a danger. I would love to see carryout service stay as part of our program. Because it's, as much as we do what we do for our meal guests, we serve dinner from 5:30 to 6:30. Not everybody wants to eat at 5:30, and many people do have places to go. And, the more options we can give folks, the more ways we can meet their needs, and not just nutritionally. We're not just, here's your food. We're in each other's lives. We support each other. They're always, how can I help? Can I come in the kitchen? Can I mop the floors? This is what our guests say all the time. Can I donate a few dollars? And our job here is to not just say, well, you need food, so here it is. There's a lot of dignity and a lot of community that is built around food. And I want to make sure that if we have offered something new that people like, I don't want to take things away. It's not like a huge funding issue to take a plate and wrap it with saran wrap if you're doing it, 20 or 30 times a day, and it allows someone to take it to work because then they have something to eat at work, or, they can take it home and, put it in their refrigerator, and then they have more options. And I think that's really important. And I really, you know, folks have so little that when we do offer something, I never feel comfortable taking it away. So, but in terms of how we produce food and stuff, there could be some learning lessons in, you know, more efficient production or, so we'll see.
Okay, well, thank you very much for speaking and coming in here with us and spending your valuable time. Yes,
Mhm.
it's
Thank
amazing.
you
Great.
very
I'm
much.
I'm just so grateful that you've asked me to speak, and it's a great way to start my day and my week. So thank you.
Well, it's very inspiring.
Thank you.
You're very high energy system, and it sounds like it'd be a great place for people to volunteer and work.
Well, maybe I'll see you all volunteer sometime. That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Great.
You
Thanks
ever
so
get
much,
back to
Scott.
normal?
Yeah. Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. I'm going to jump off and get into work. So happy Sunday to everyone.
Yes, you
Great.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye-bye,
Super
everyone.
job. Thank you.
Hey.